The first thing I saw when I walked in was the open suitcase. Red leather, the one she never used for us. It lay across the bed, half-packed with sundresses she hadn't worn in years, 2 different pairs of wedge heels, and a bikini tag still attached. I wasn't mad at first. Not exactly. It was more like something cold pressed its hand against the back of my neck. I stood there for a moment, not saying anything, just watching her fold something sheer and blue. She looked up and smiled like she'd forgotten I lived there. "Oh hey, I meant to tell you, Hawaii trip. Just a reunion thing." I blinked. "Since when?" "Planned a while ago. You knew about this. I don't remember you saying 8 of your college friends were flying out, and 6 of them being men." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Thomas. You've met them. You literally shook Greg's hand at our Christmas thing." I didn't realize I was shaking the hand of the guy you'd be drinking rum with in a hot tub. She threw a blouse into the suitcase, half laughing, half irritated. "Jesus, you are being so insecure." I don't know why that word hits a man like a slap. Insecure. It's code for you're not enough. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just stood there like the air had turned thick. My wife of 23 years was going to paradise with guys who used to share dorm rooms with her, and I was supposed to smile and wave her off like I was handing her sunscreen and a hall pass. "What about us?" I asked. "We haven't taken a vacation in 4 years. You canceled the cabin trip last fall. That was different. I needed to finish that mural job. You finished it in October. We were supposed to go in November. I'm not doing this with you," she snapped, zipping the bag. "You can either be supportive or keep sulking in the corner like you always do." She walked out of the room, probably to check in for her flight. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her sandals. Beige with the gold straps, the ones she always said made her legs look longer. It was like I was watching a play I wasn't invited to be in. That night, after she went to bed early to be fresh for the flight, I sat alone in the den. She'd left her phone on the kitchen counter. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Her Instagram was public. The first photo went up at 11:03 p.m. 3 people in the frame, all tan, laughing, drinks in hand. Renee in the middle with a hibiscus flower in her hair. The caption, "Surrounded by real men again." No emoji, just that. I stared at it for a long time, not because I was surprised, but because of how not surprised I was. Then I closed the browser tab, opened a new one, logged into our joint banking account. By the way, more than 97% of you listening right now aren't subscribed. If you want this kind of story to keep showing up in your feed, it helps the team a lot when you hit that button. It's free, and it actually lets us keep going. Back to the story. First, I reviewed the last 60 days of charges. A few stood out. A high-end clothing boutique, a spa deposit, a Venmo labeled for Friday sent to someone I didn't recognize. I made a note. Then I moved over to our shared credit cards. Froze mine. Froze hers. I called the bank and requested a temporary hold on our main checking account. Pending suspicious activity. That's how I phrased it. Pending suspicious activity. By midnight, I had changed the locks. Scheduled new keys to be delivered by morning. Disabled her garage opener. At 1:17 a.m., I sent a message. "Hope you're having fun. Don't rush back." Then I turned off my phone, unplugged the router, and slept like a stone. When a woman looks you in the face, packs for a beach with men who once tried to bed her, and calls you insecure, it changes something fundamental. Not in a dramatic, movie-screaming kind of way. No, it's quieter than that. Sharper. Like a bone finally giving under pressure. She wanted her freedom. I was about to give her something better. Distance. Permanent and silent. And she wouldn't hear the echo until it was far, far too late. The ocean looked good on her, I'll give her that. First morning in Hawaii and she's already barefoot in the sand, holding a coconut drink and posing like she's 22 again. Her cheeks a little flushed. That smile she used to save for private moments now broadcast to strangers and Greg from college. I saw the photo 30 minutes after she posted it. One hand on her hip, the other holding a drink. Sunglasses tilted just enough to show the smile that wasn't meant for me. The caption this time? Day 1. Already worth it, face blowing a kiss. Meanwhile, I was at the hardware store before it even opened. Do you know how fast you can change out a deadbolt if you don't stop for coffee? 10 minutes. Tops. I replaced the main lock, the garage keypad, and the side door by 8:15 a.m. The security system was updated by 9 o'clock. New code. New facial recognition. Deleted her profile. I wasn't angry. I was focused. The kind of calm that people mistake for weakness until they realize you're not blinking anymore. Next came the passwords. Banking, utilities, email recovery. Her name was on fewer things than she remembered. That mural business she always said was joint effort? Legally under my LLC, registered to my premarital account. She never noticed the paperwork shift 2 years ago because she never read the fine print. She liked the idea of entrepreneurship, not the work of it. The shared cards were easy. Click. Frozen. The main account? Flagged for a security audit due to suspicious spending behavior. That was the exact wording I used when I called the bank. I even threw in a concerned pause when describing the $486 spa charge labeled pre-trip essentials. The guy on the other end sounded like he'd been through something similar. We can issue a temporary freeze until both parties verify, he said. Perfect, I replied. And then, just for the hell of it, I logged into our Amazon household account and removed her profile, because petty has its place. And this was a precision strike. At exactly 10:42 a.m. her time, 3:42 p.m. mine, I sent her a text. Just one line. Hope you're having fun. Don't rush back. Then I shut off my phone, tossed it in the drawer beside the coffee filters, and exhaled for what felt like the first time in a year. I wasn't going to fight anymore. Fighting meant I still cared what she thought. Fighting meant she still had a role in the outcome. No, this wasn't about rage. This was about withdrawal. Strategic silence. Like removing your money from a doomed company a day before the bankruptcy announcement. She could laugh in the photos. She could sip mango rum with sunburned boys in tank tops who still wore puka shell necklaces like it was 1999. But the moment she'd feel it, really feel it, wouldn't be on the beach. It would be when her card declined. When her room key stopped working. When she realized joint meant nothing without access. When the people clapping for her selfies couldn't front the next bill. That's when the vacation would shift. That's when the island would stop looking like freedom and start smelling like isolation. And I'd be nowhere near the blast radius when it happened. Funny how you can build a life with someone, and then one bikini, one cheap caption, and one smug little smile is all it takes to make you realize. They never saw the storm coming, because they thought you were too soft to summon one. Day 3. She's straddling a paddleboard. Some guy's sunglasses perched on her head, grinning like a teenager. Caption. Guess who fell in the water first? Winking face with tongue. The guy behind her, tall, shirtless, smug, had his hand way too comfortable on her thigh. I didn't know his name. I didn't need to. Day 4. They're clinking glasses. Another guy now. This one with a beard and the kind of forearm tattoos you only get when you think pain equals depth. She's got her mouth open mid-laugh, head thrown back like she's never once been the woman who complained about unfiltered tap water at home. Caption. College flashbacks, tropical drink, sweat droplets. The comments below were predictable. You look so happy. Girl. You deserve this. Living your best life. Fire, fire, fire. I read every single one. Silently. No response. No double tap. No dramatic quote tweet. I just sipped my coffee and opened my laptop. Our family accountant, Marvin, was the kind of man who'd never trust a cloud document unless it was printed twice and signed with a blue pen. He'd been handling our books for over a decade. He also owed me a favor. 2, actually. Once for a canceled audit I'd caught for him, and once for letting him crash on our couch when his wife locked him out in 2017. I sent a short email. Need a forensic review of joint and business expenses. Pull 6 months. Prioritize any non-invoice transactions, especially Venmo, Zelle, and travel-related. Keep it quiet. T. He replied 4 hours later. Copy that. Quiet it stays. While Renee played mermaid with men who had the emotional depth of a soup spoon, I started building my own photo album. Screenshots, transactions, date overlaps. One of them tagged a sushi bar with her in the background. Taken a month before she told me she was working late with a client. That alone was a red flag. She hates raw fish, claims it makes her gag. I compared it with a receipt from our shared card. The timestamp matched. Her client meeting just happened to end 30 minutes after the charge went through for 2 omakase tasting menus. Interesting. I created a folder on my desktop. Labeled it R_waves. Subfolders by category: travel, dining, gifts, Venmo, photos. It didn't feel like revenge. Not yet. It felt like taking inventory of what had actually been happening while I was patching leaks in our roof and meal prepping quinoa bowls she never touched. She thought she was winning. that she had slipped the leash and was now galloping toward the sunset with her hands in the air and margarita salt on her lips. But the thing about leashes is, they're not always visible. Some are contracts. Some are bank statements. Some are tax forms signed in ignorance years ago, when she still thought trust was just a romantic word and not a legal instrument. By day 5, she posted a photo of a beach bonfire. Someone was clearly playing guitar badly. She sat beside yet another man, head on his shoulder, with the caption, "Some moments don't need explanations, Dizzy." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was desperate. The kind of post meant not just for her audience, but for me, like she wanted to make sure I saw it, wanted to rub it in, prove some invisible point. It reeked of performance, and desperation always does. But I didn't give her the thing she wanted. Not jealousy, not rage, not a phone call asking if she'd lost her damn mind. What she got was silence, and a paper trail. Because while she danced for the crowd, I was documenting the choreography. Step by step. The trap wasn't closing fast. It was closing quietly. Renee never liked being embarrassed in public. She could handle whispers, gossip, even the occasional passive-aggressive comment at a dinner party, but embarrassment? The kind where you feel eyes on you waiting for your reaction, that she couldn't stand. So when the waiter returned to the table holding her card like it was radioactive, eyebrows slightly raised, whispering, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but your card was declined," she felt it, like a slap made of ice. There were 5 others at the table. 2 men, 3 women. All younger than her. All mid-laugh, mid-drink. And now all suddenly very quiet. Renee blinked. "Sorry, what?" The waiter held his professional tone. "Would you like to try another card?" Her throat tightened. She reached into her bag and pulled out the backup, another joint card they rarely used. She handed it over with a smile so forced it could crack teeth. "Try this one," she said, a little too brightly. "This card's weird sometimes." He nodded, walked off. She lifted her cocktail and took a sip, hand trembling just slightly. The guy beside her, Corey or Cody or whatever, gave her a half smile. "All good." She nodded quickly. "Oh yeah, happens all the time." Probably flagged for being out of state. The second waiter came back. A different one. This time with both cards in hand. "I'm sorry," he said. "This one was declined too." There was that pause. That thick, suffocating pause. Everyone around the table tried to pretend they weren't listening. Renee was suddenly hyper-aware of everything. The condensation sliding down her glass, the distant sound of a ukulele near the beach, the flicker of tiki torches reflecting off her wine glass. She reached for her phone, opened the banking app. Nothing loaded. She tapped again. Froze. Something was off. A yellow triangle icon next to the account. Temporarily restricted. "Please call for details." She excused herself, got up from the table, and walked to the edge of the restaurant where it opened up to a dimly lit path near the beach. She pressed the bank's number. Waited. Finally, someone picked up. "Thank you for calling First Capital Union. This is Brian. How can I assist you?" She didn't bother with pleasantries. "Why are my cards declining? I'm traveling." There shouldn't be any restrictions. There was typing. More typing. Then Brian's voice. "Ma'am, I see that your joint checking and both associated cards were flagged and temporarily frozen at the request of the other account holder." Silence. "I'm sorry?" she asked, flat. The other account holder, Thomas, submitted a request to temporarily restrict access, citing unusual activity. Because the account is jointly owned, we honored the freeze until both parties verify. Renee's pulse thumped in her ears. "He what?" Another polite pause. "Would you like to schedule a verification call?" She ended the call. Without a word, she turned back toward the restaurant. Her mouth was dry. Her heart was suddenly pounding in a way that had nothing to do with salt water or Mai Tais. As she reached the table, her friend Kim leaned in, eyes wide but trying to sound casual. "Everything okay?" Renee forced a laugh that didn't touch her eyes. "Ugh, it's just a tech thing. Our bank's got the fraud alert setting on overdrive." Someone joked, "That's what you get for ballin' too hard, girl." And the tension broke for everyone else. But not for her. Because under the table, her hand was gripping her phone like it might shatter. She had already texted Thomas. "What the hell is going on? Call me now." No response. A few minutes later, another one. "You froze the accounts. Are you serious?" Still nothing. She called. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. And now she wasn't sipping anything. Now she was staring past the table, past the fire pit, past the laughing couples, into the black Pacific night and the reflection of a woman who was very suddenly not in control anymore. It wasn't just about money. It was the silence. That deliberate silence from the man who used to apologize when he forgot to record her favorite shows. That's when it cracked. Just a little. Not her voice. Not her smile. But her certainty. The kind of certainty that says, he'll never really do anything. Turns out he would. And worse, he already had. The laughter was thinner that night. Not gone entirely, but stretched. Like a cover story you know won't hold through morning. Most of the group had peeled off after the bar closed. A few wandering down to the beach for a midnight walk. Others calling it early before the snorkeling trip. Renee sat near the pool in a lounge chair, nursing the last of her overpriced martini. Her feet dangling into the water. Red toenail polish chipped at the edges. That's when Greg approached. Not drunk. Not flirty. Just quiet. He pulled over a chair, sat beside her without a word, then finally asked, "Can I talk to you for a sec?" She smiled reflexively. Sure. She thought maybe he was about to make a move. Maybe to tell her she looked amazing or that he'd always had a thing for her back in school. Part of her wanted it. Wanted the distraction, the validation, something to keep the spiral from tightening any further. Instead, he said, "I didn't know you were married." The air shifted instantly. Her fingers stiffened around her glass. She forced a smirk. "We're basically separated." Greg didn't nod, didn't smile. Instead, he pulled out his phone and opened a browser window. "I'm in a forum. Finance and divorce stuff. Mostly men, but a few women too. Someone posted this earlier today." He handed her the phone. It was her. A screenshot of her, surrounded by real men again. Post from day one. Right beside it, a zoomed-in shot of her wedding ring, time-stamped from just 3 weeks ago, taken at a dinner party she'd attended with Thomas. Someone had circled the ring with a red arrow and added the text. "This is the woman who wiped her husband's pension to fund her art cafe, then ghosted him to fly to Hawaii with old flings. Congrats to Thomas." He finally snapped. Replies below it ranged from rage to ridicule. "She's wearing a $900 bikini and pretending she's single? Imagine being married to someone like this for decades." He froze the accounts? Good. She earned it. "Renee. Blink twice if Greg is holding you hostage." The last one stung more than it should have. She handed the phone back, hand trembling just slightly. Greg looked genuinely uncomfortable now. "I don't know if this is all true. I mean, I don't even know what to say." Renee bit her cheek. "It's exaggerated. He's bitter. He's quiet," Greg said flatly. "That's different." She stood up. "I need to go." "You're trending in places you can't see," he added. "Just thought you should know." She didn't reply, just walked back to her hotel room barefoot, holding her heels in one hand, her phone in the other. Back in the room, she slammed the door behind her, locked it, and dropped onto the bed. She tried to open Instagram, then closed it. Tried again. This time she scrolled through her own feed. The photos suddenly looked different. They weren't joyful anymore. They were desperate. Performed. A slideshow of someone who wasn't even trying to convince herself anymore. Her notifications were full of laughing emojis from women she didn't even like that much and passive-aggressive likes from a few of Thomas's cousins. But it was the silence from him that screamed. He wasn't reacting. He wasn't chasing. And now strangers knew her business. Not because she told them, but because he didn't. That was the thing. His silence made people curious. Curious people dig. And what they'd found was enough to turn her from fun, flirty, free, into an open case study in online forums about financial betrayal and narcissism. She tried to sleep, but the air conditioning buzzed too loud. Or maybe it was her pulse. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the screen again. The ring. The caption. The strangers dissecting her like a frog pinned to a table. She texted Thomas again. "You're spreading lies about me online? You think this is funny?" No response. Not that night. Not the next morning. He wasn't playing. And now she wasn't just embarrassed. She was exposed. And what made it worse was the realization clawing at the back of her mind. She didn't know how they found those photos. She didn't know who sent them. She didn't know how far this would go. And that, for the first time, truly scared her. The decision hit her around 3 a.m. After another sleepless night spent scrolling, deleting, checking, rechecking, and ultimately admitting. She'd lost control of the narrative. The boys in the group had gotten weird, polite, distant. Greg hadn't spoken to her since the private talk. Corey had suddenly remembered his girlfriend back home. Even Kim, her closest friend on the trip, was more interested in snorkeling selfies than commiserating. The comments online had turned meaner. A few women had called her brave for starting over, but even that felt performative. Hollow. She needed to leave, reset, come home, clean things up with Thomas, spin it before it spun any further. She'd fake humility if she had to, say she just needed space, cry if it helped. He always cracked at tears. At 6:12 a.m., she booked a new return flight, single ticket, Honolulu to Denver, then connecting back home. She felt her lungs loosen as the confirmation came through. She even smiled. Briefly. The moment didn't last. 3 hours later, at the airport, the Hawaiian sun already baking the concrete, she wheeled her suitcase to the counter, handed over her ID. The woman behind the desk frowned, tapped the keyboard a few times, then tried again. "I'm sorry," she said. "This reservation was voided this morning." Renee blinked. Voided? Correct. Cancelled by the purchaser. I was the purchaser. Another series of keystrokes. It looks like the card on file was declined. The payment didn't finalize. Renee's voice turned flat. "Can I rebook it now?" "Same flight." "You can," the agent said, "but I'll need a valid credit card." That's when it hit her again. No cards. No cash. Her phone battery was at 9%. She stepped aside and sat near the departure screens, under the artificial breeze of a ceiling fan that did nothing for the heat in her spine. Her nails tapped against the handle of her suitcase. She tried logging into her mobile banking app. Still frozen. She tried PayPal. Empty. Apple Pay? Nope. Desperation doesn't arrive like a scream. It creeps. Through the fingertips. Down the spine. Into your gut. That crawling awareness you're out of moves. She opened her contacts and tapped Mom. "Renee?" Her mother answered groggily. "Is everything okay?" "Mom, I need your help. I'm trying to get home early. My cards aren't working. Something's wrong with the flight booking. Can you buy me a ticket home? I'll pay you back as soon as I—" Her mother hesitated. That hesitation said everything. "Thomas called me." Renee went still. "What?" "He said you might be trying to come home early. That I might hear from you. He asked me not to intervene. Said you needed space." "What does that even mean?" Renee snapped. Her mother's voice was cautious now, fragile. "Honey, what is going on between you two?" He sounded calm, but different. Said something about needing to step back while you sorted yourself out. Renee didn't answer, because what was she supposed to say? That she flew across the ocean to play memory games with ex-flings while her husband quietly erased her access to everything? That the man who used to apologize for overcooking her eggs had now iced her out of their life with surgical precision? She ended the call. Didn't say goodbye. Just stared through the massive airport windows at the waves in the distance. They looked beautiful. Cruel, too. All this time she thought Thomas was the safe one. The boring one. The soft landing. The guy who wouldn't leave even if she screamed in his face. But that man didn't exist anymore. She used to joke that Thomas was 10 years behind emotionally. Now she saw the truth. He was 10 steps ahead. And while she was performing freedom with fruity drinks and filtered beach shots, he was closing the exits. Quietly. Completely. She wasn't just stuck in Hawaii. She was stuck in the wreckage of her own playbook. And now, there was no audience left to clap. The taxi pulled up just after midnight. The sky was ink black. The porch light flickering like it knew she didn't belong there anymore. Renee stepped out, barefoot. Her shoes clutched in one hand, suitcase wheels thudding against the concrete. Her face was puffy, her nose sunburned, her hair pulled back in a rushed, tangled bun. She looked like someone arriving home from war. Only she didn't realize she'd lost. She reached into her purse for her keys. Found them. Slid the first one into the lock. Nothing. She tried the second. Stuck. She jiggled it, twisted it hard. Too hard. Her knuckles scraped the wood. She stepped back, blinking. Maybe she was too tired. Maybe it was the wrong key. Maybe. She turned toward the garage keypad. Tapped in her old code. The system beeped once. Then a dull red light blinked back at her. Access denied. Her pulse ticked up. Not panic. Not yet. Just confusion soaking in slow. She stepped off the porch, turned toward the living room window, cupped her hands, and peered through the glass. It was her house. But it wasn't her house. The blue rug she'd picked out 2 summers ago, gone. Replaced by a stark gray one. Her eucalyptus throw pillows? Missing. New ones sat on the couch. Plain, symmetrical, cold. The bookshelves were half empty. The wedding photo by the fireplace had vanished. And on the porch behind her, where the shadows swallowed the railing, she saw them. 5 cardboard boxes. Neat, taped, labeled in thick black marker. Closet, R. Bathroom drawer, R. Miscellaneous, office. She opened the top one. Her favorite scarf. Her backup phone charger. The sleep mask she used for migraines. Everything carefully packed. Not dumped. Not destroyed. Just removed. She turned slowly to the front door again. That's when she saw the note. Taped dead center with blue painter's tape. The kind Thomas always kept in the garage tool cabinet. Neat handwriting. Thick black ink. You made your choice. No signature. No timestamp. She stared at it like it might change. Like it might explain itself. Instead, the porch light flickered once. Then died. She didn't cry. Not yet. She banged on the door once, hard enough to hurt her hand. Thomas! Open the damn door. Nothing. Are you in there? Still nothing. She yelled his name 3 more times, voice cracking, echo bouncing down the dark, empty cul-de-sac. The houses around her were asleep, or pretending to be. She stood there in the chill night air, surrounded by silence, Hawaiian sand still clinging to her ankles. Car passed slowly down the block. A neighbor walking a dog glanced over. Renee quickly stepped away from the door, pretending to check her phone. Pride is a stubborn thing, it survives even when logic doesn't. She sat down on the porch steps. Minutes passed, then more. Eventually, she picked up the boxes. One by one, carried them down to the curb and lined them beside her suitcase. She sat back down on the steps, shoes still in hand. No plan, no key, no answers. And for the first time since she landed, the rage flickered out. What replaced it was worse. Powerlessness. Because the note wasn't wrong. She had made her choice. Only now, the consequences weren't abstract anymore. They were concrete, stacked beside her in cardboard. And the man she thought she could manipulate with a few tears, a late-night call, or a well-timed "I just needed time," he was gone. Not physically, emotionally, legally, practically. She'd stepped out of the marriage like it was a room with a revolving door, and found out too late. Thomas had welded it shut behind her. She didn't bother calling ahead. She wanted the element of surprise, to barge in like a force of nature. Flustered, betrayed, morally indignant. The kind of entrance that made people backpedal and apologize before understanding what they were apologizing for. But Marvin, the family accountant, didn't flinch when she slammed open the glass door of his office at 10:03 a.m. He looked up from his desk, took off his glasses, and offered a nod that hovered somewhere between exhausted and unsurprised. "Renee," he said flatly, "have a seat." She stayed standing. "What the hell is going on? Why did you let him freeze everything? You work for us." "I work for both of you," he corrected. "Joint clients." And Thomas made a formal request, well within his rights. "He blindsided me," she snapped. "Took everything. Even the house. Changed the locks like I was some intruder." "You weren't on the deed," Marvin replied, unbothered. "You signed off the transfer when you filed your mural business under his LLC. Part of the asset restructuring. We went over this twice. That was years ago. And the power of attorney you granted him in 2018, notarized, witnessed, also years ago. But still valid." Her jaw clenched. "He manipulated me," Marvin sighed. "He protected himself." She paced the carpet, muffling her steps. "You have to help me reverse it. Undo it. There has to be a loophole." "There isn't," he said, pulling open a drawer. He slid a thick manila folder across the desk. It landed in front of her with a muted thump. The label read, "Contingency R. He asked me to give you this if you ever came in angry, accusing. Said you'd try to play victim if it went public. Said it wasn't spite, it was self-defense." She stared at the folder. Didn't open it. "What is this? Some kind of guilt file?" Marvin tapped it once. Every major transaction from the last 12 months. Expenses that were logged against joint funds. Travel, gifts, boutique purchases, Venmo transfers to names that don't match any invoices. Restaurant receipts, spa appointments. Even one labeled, business meeting, sake and silk. That caught my eye. She opened it. First page. A color-printed screenshot of a spa charge in Arizona. She told Thomas she was visiting her aunt. Second page. Photo of her in a group selfie, tagged at a wine bar with her arm linked through Greg's. A week before the trip. The caption read, business trip turned into a happy accident, wineglass winking face. The next pages were worse. Zelle payments to TM, cash withdrawals on days she claimed to be at the studio, and a Venmo labeled THX for sat face blowing a kiss, sent to a contact with no profile photo. The last section? Her own emails. Not the public ones. The private Gmail she used for her mural clients, the one she thought he didn't know about. Somehow he had screenshots, messages between her and Kim. He's never going to make more than this. I'm done waiting. I just want to feel alive again, even for a weekend. Greg flirts like crazy. If he tries something, I won't say no, lol. Her throat tightened. I didn't authorize anyone to pull these, she whispered. You gave him legal access, Marvin said simply. Power of attorney isn't just for medical emergencies. It grants access to financial and digital records under fiduciary trust. She shut the folder. Hard. This is character assassination, she hissed. He's turning people against me. You, my mother, everyone. Marvin folded his hands. No, you're doing that. Thomas just made sure your version of the story wouldn't be the only one told. She stood, shaking, both fists clenched. You think this is justice? I think it's a paper trail, he said. And unfortunately for you, it's airtight. She left without saying goodbye. Stormed out into the parking lot, sun burning the back of her neck, eyes brimming with fury she had nowhere to send. She wanted to scream, to post, to spin it all as control, abuse, some orchestrated takedown. But she knew. Any story she told now would unravel the second someone asked, "Do you have receipts?" Because Thomas did. All of them. And worse, he'd handed them off. Quietly, predictably, legally. So now she couldn't cry victim. Because the only thing louder than her silence was the evidence. The voicemail came in just after sunrise. Thomas was standing in the kitchen, barefoot, grinding coffee beans by hand. A habit he'd picked up in the months Renee stopped drinking coffee because caffeine made her skin dull. That particular obsession had lasted until she discovered oat milk lattes on Instagram. Then suddenly, everything had to be blended, organic, frothy. He poured the hot water in slow circles over the grounds, let it bloom, then turned to his phone buzzing on the counter. One new message. Unknown number, but he knew the voice before she even said her name. Thomas. It's me. It's Carol. Renee's mother. Her voice cracked on the second word, like the weight of dialing had already been too much. He didn't press play right away. Just let it hang in his ears, the still kitchen wrapping around him like silence before a verdict. Then he hit play. Why did you let her go? She said softly. The question lingered like fog. Not accusatory, not angry, just tired. She's at my place now, Carol continued, audibly wiping away tears. She's not talking. She's not eating. She won't come out of the guest room. I tried asking what happened, but she just keeps saying you'll come back, that you'll calm down, that it's just a phase. Thomas stared out the kitchen window. The backyard was still wet with dew. The tomatoes were finally coming in. He'd planted them on the day Renee left, a quiet project to keep his hands busy. Carol's voice kept going. I don't know what she did, Thomas. I don't want to know, to be honest. But she's unraveling. It's not her anymore. It's like someone cracked her open and nothing's inside. There was a pause. Then the real question, tucked behind all the emotion like a final card. Is this really the end? Thomas stood still, the steam from the mug curling up around his face. Then he reached over, tapped the delete icon, and the message vanished. No replay, no response. He took a sip. The coffee was strong, just bitter enough to feel real. Not because he didn't care. He did once, fiercely, in ways that showed up in the smallest things. Folding her laundry the way she liked, stocking her favorite yogurt even after she'd stopped eating it, defending her to his family when they whispered that she was ambitious, in the way women sometimes say, available. But that kind of care had a shelf life. And somewhere between the forgotten anniversaries, the casual contempt, And the bikini-clad Instagram captions. Something in him had expired. Carol's call hadn't been a lifeline. It was an obituary. A final eulogy for the version of Renee that Thomas had once fought to love. He could see it clearly now. How her mother had spent years pretending Renee's sharp tongue was independence. How she'd excused the cruelty as confidence. But now even she had stopped making excuses. That's how bad it had gotten. When even your mother can't sell your story anymore, it's over. He moved to the living room, coffee in hand, and opened the sliding glass door. Morning air swept in. He didn't feel vindicated. He felt finished. Not broken. Not elated. Just done. Some endings don't come with a final argument or a slam of the door. Sometimes, it's a voicemail from a crying woman who finally understands that her daughter lost the one person who ever stayed, and that he's not coming back. The post went up at 2:43 a.m., a time no one with dignity schedules anything. The photo was clearly from the Hawaii trip, but it looked like an afterthought. Blurry, off-center, like she'd cropped out half a person but didn't quite know how to clean it up. The lighting was bad. Her hair was wind-tangled. Her smile, if it could be called that, looked forced, strained. The caption read simply, "What a mistake." No hashtags, no geotag, no apology, just that. It sat there like a confession in an empty church. No one commented. No one liked it. No one dared. Because the crowd she'd built online, her audience of curated supporters, the ones who cheered her freedom and fire emojis from cocktails at sunset, had gone quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when people don't know which side to take anymore. When the spin collapses under its own weight. When the truth starts leaking through the filters. It wasn't just the photo that felt wrong. It was the absence around it. Like the platform itself had turned its face away. She didn't delete it. She didn't follow it up with an explanation. No stories. No dramatic quotes. No healing journey talk. Because there was nothing to spin. The thread had unraveled. And now the world, what little of it still watched, saw her not as the liberated woman sipping island cocktails, but as someone who'd pushed too far, posted too much, and underestimated the one man who never needed to raise his voice. Across town, Thomas updated his profile picture for the first time in years. Just a photo, a mountain range, sharp peaks, cold air, vast silence, no caption, no hashtags, just a location tag, peace, found it. The people who noticed, noticed. The ones who didn't weren't meant to, because that was the difference between them. She needed her version seen, reacted to, propped up with engagement. He didn't need anyone's applause. He had what he came for. Silence. Space. Solitude. Not revenge, not really. That would have required her presence. This was something colder. Something purer. A clean break buried under paperwork, legal signatures, and quiet strategy. She could post all she wanted. But he had already moved on without ever typing a word. And she was left posting into the void, waiting for likes that would never come, trapped in the echo of a caption that couldn't save her. What a mistake.